I never wanted to marry you, just loved the $30,000 ring. Those were her words. Girl, I'm serious. I never actually wanted to marry Nicholas. I mean, he's fine and all, super responsible, good provider, but marry him? Please. I just wanted that ring. Did you see it? $30,000. It photographs like a dream. I stood frozen in the hallway of my own home, flowers trembling in my hand. The bedroom door was cracked open just 3 inches, and through that sliver, my entire marriage was being dissected like a lab experiment. Please, before we continue, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. My name is Nicholas George, and I'm a structural engineer. I build things that are supposed to last, bridges, buildings, foundations that can withstand earthquakes. I thought I'd build a marriage the same way, carefully, with precision, with love as the load-bearing element that would hold everything together. I was wrong. My engagement post got 15,000 likes, Rachel continued, her voice bright with that performative enthusiasm she used for influencer friends. That one post got me into rooms with brands I've been chasing for 2 years. The wedding? 3 sponsorship deals just for my dress photos. And now I have this whole married lifestyle aesthetic going. You know how much that plays with brands targeting women in our demographic. The peonies in my hand, her favorite flowers, $20 from Mrs. Chen's shop, picked out because I'd landed the biggest contract of my career and wanted to celebrate with my wife, suddenly felt absurdly heavy. But honestly, Rachel's voice dropped lower, more genuine now, which somehow made it worse. Sometimes I look at him reading his engineering journals or whatever, falling asleep by 10 p.m. like he's 60 years old, and I just think, is this it? Is this my life now? Calculating grocery budgets and pretending to care about structural integrity. I should have walked away, announced myself, done something other than stand there like a statue, listening to my wife explain how our marriage was essentially a business arrangement I'd never agreed to. Divorce? I don't know. Maybe eventually. But right now, the married thing is working for my brand. Plus, his engineer's salary keeps me comfortable while I build my platform. I'll probably give it another year or 2, squeeze what I can out of this whole wife life thing, then move on. The thing about structural failure is that it rarely happens all at once. There are warning signs, microfractures, stress indicators, small deformations that engineers are trained to notice. I'd seen those signs in my marriage, the way Rachel would photograph the ring before she kissed me when I proposed. The 3-second delay that I told myself was just excitement. The credit cards I discovered and paid off, believing her tears and promises to change. The therapy sessions she attended twice before deciding the therapist didn't understand her industry. I'd been trained my entire life to see structural weaknesses, but love had made me blind. I set the flowers down silently on the hallway table and walked backward, each step deliberate, controlled. My hands were shaking, but my mind had gone eerily calm, that same detached clarity that hits during a crisis, when your brain shifts from feeling to solving. I sat in my car for 3 hours in our apartment parking lot, staring at the steering wheel. The dashboard clock glowed 4:47 p.m. when I arrived. By 7:53 p.m., I'd made my decision. My phone buzzed with text from Rachel. "Where are you?" "Dinner's ready." Dinner. As if we were a normal couple. As if I hadn't just heard her describe our marriage as a content strategy. I thought about my parents. Dad worked 3 jobs to afford Mom's cancer treatments, and when he finally saved enough to buy her a simple gold band for their 20th anniversary, she cried for hours, not because of the ring's value, but because of what it represented. Sacrifice, commitment, love that didn't need an audience. When Mom beat cancer, she gave me that ring. "When you find real love," she'd said, "you'll know real love doesn't count the cost. It counts the moments." I'd melted down that gold band and added it to Rachel's engagement ring without telling her. My parents' entire love story was woven into that platinum setting, and she reduced it to a photo opportunity worth 15,000 likes. Another text. "Nicholas, you're worrying me." I almost laughed. She was worried. About what? That her comfortable lifestyle was about to end. That the provider husband aesthetic she'd mentioned might disappear. I finally drove home at 8:15. When I walked inside, Rachel was in the kitchen, phone in hand, probably editing content. She looked up and smiled, that practiced smile I'd mistaken for genuine affection for 3 years. "There you are. I made your favorite." She stopped. Something in my face made her pause. "Is everything okay?" I set my keys on the counter with deliberate care, walked to the living room, turned on a lamp. The light fell harsh, exposing, like suddenly seeing the blueprints of a building you thought was solid, but was actually held together with nothing but wishful thinking and expensive facade. "When did you get home?" she asked, following me. I looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time since the wedding. "About 3 hours ago." The color drained from Rachel's face so fast I could actually watch it happen. A spreading pallor that started at her hairline and moved down. For exactly 5 seconds, she was frozen, a performer who'd forgotten her lines. Then her brain rebooted, and she switched characters so smoothly it would have been impressive if it wasn't so devastating. "Baby." She took a step toward me, her voice soft, vulnerable. The tone she used when she wanted something. "Baby, you misunderstood. I was just venting, blowing off steam with the girls. You know how it is. We exaggerate when we complain. Everyone does it. You said you never wanted to marry me. I was being dramatic. You said you're planning to divorce me in a year or 2, that you're squeezing what you can out of this marriage." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. I watched her cycle through responses, testing which one might work. The performer was choosing her role. "You're taking things out of context," she finally said, and there was an edge to her voice now. So I said some things I shouldn't have. "But everyone complains about their spouse sometimes. You're acting like I committed some crime." I thought about the credit card I discovered 6 weeks ago, $23,000 in debt. Purchases I never authorized, open in my name. I'd paid it off by liquidating half my retirement fund. Rachel had cried, promised to get help, sworn she'd change. 2 weeks later, I found another card, $8,000. All charged in the same week. She'd promised to see a financial counselor. This wasn't complaining, I said quietly. This was admitting our entire marriage is a fraud. That's not, look, maybe I got caught up in the lifestyle stuff, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you. Do you love me, Rachel? The question hung between us like smoke. Outside, I could hear neighbors laughing, a dog barking, normal sounds of normal lives where people marry for normal reasons. 10 seconds passed. 20, 30. "I care about you," she finally said. "That's not what I asked." Her expression hardened, the mask finally dropping. "Fine. You want brutal honesty?" "No, I don't love you the way you love me. I probably never did." Something broke inside my chest, something physical, like a bone snapping. I prepared myself for this answer during those 3 hours in the car, but hearing out loud was different. Preparation doesn't stop pain. It just helps you stay standing while it hits. "But that doesn't make this meaningless," Rachel continued, her voice gaining strength now that the pretense was gone. "We have a good partnership. You provide stability. I make your life more interesting. People look at you differently when you're with someone like me. Isn't that enough?" I remember my sister Diana pulling me aside at a family dinner 2 years ago. She was getting her PhD in psychology, and she watched Rachel perform all evening, laughing louder when my successful cousin was around, touching my arm while calling me my engineer husband to strangers, photographing her plate before eating. She's a narcissist. Diana had said, clinical, "I'm watching her love bomb you, and when you marry her, the devaluation phase will destroy you." I'd accused Diana of jealousy. We didn't speak for 8 months. "No," I said to Rachel now. "It's not enough. It was never going to be enough." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done. We're done." Rachel laughed, actually laughed. "You'll forgive me. You always do. You're too nice, too accommodating. We'll go to therapy. I'll make some changes, and in a month, this will be a funny story about the time we almost broke up." I walked to our bedroom and pulled a suitcase from the closet. Started packing. Methodically, calmly. Each folded shirt was a decision to choose myself over someone who'd never chosen me. Nicholas, stop. Her voice changed, uncertain now, the control slipping. Don't be ridiculous. We can talk about this. We're past talking. Where are you going? Travis's house. My lawyer's office is open at 8 tomorrow morning. Your lawyer? The panic in her voice was real now, not performed. You're being insane. We just need to. Give me the ring. She touched her left hand instinctively protective. What? The engagement ring. I want it back. Now, or through a court order. Your choice. I didn't sleep that night. Travis gave me his guest room and a beer and the gift of not asking questions until I was ready to talk. By dawn, I'd made a list, attorneys, banks, documents I'd need. My engineering brain took over, turning heartbreak into a project with measurable steps. At 8:03, I was sitting across from Victoria Rivera, a divorce attorney my colleague had recommended. She listened to my story without interruption, taking occasional notes. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. First, I'm sorry. What you're describing is emotional fraud. Second, you have leverage. Do you have a prenup? Yes. My parents insisted. Rachel fought it, but signed eventually. Victoria almost smiled. Then this is straightforward. 6 months married, prenuptial agreement, evidence of fraudulent intent. We can get an annulment. You keep what you brought in. She keeps what she brought in. The ring, however, is interesting. I want it back. It's a conditional gift based on a promise of marriage. She entered that promise fraudulently. We can argue for its return, especially given the messages you mentioned. She paused. Do you have documentation of those overheard statements? I recorded the conversation after I came back inside. She repeated most of it. Smart. Bring me that recording. Also any financial records showing the credit card fraud, any messages or social media posts discussing the marriage as a business arrangement, and any witnesses who can testify to her pattern of behavior. My phone buzzed. 15 texts from Rachel. Where are you? We need to talk. You're overreacting. Then, you're making a huge mistake. I showed Victoria. She photographed each message. Don't respond. Let her uncertainty work in our favor. I'm filing papers today. She'll be served by end of business. I thought about the wedding planner, Patricia, who'd pull me aside and said, weddings where the bride talks more about the photos and the marriage rarely make it past 5 years. I'd lasted 6 months. One question. I said, how did I miss this? How was I so blind? Victoria's expression softened. Because you loved her. Love isn't blind, Mr. George. It's optimistic. You gave her the benefit of the doubt because that's what good people do. She exploited that goodness. That's on her, not you. Rachel was served at 4:47 p.m. while having coffee with friends at an upscale cafe, staging photos of her latte for Instagram. Travis knew someone who knew the process server, and he'd agreed to send me a text when it was done. Delivered. She went white. I imagined the scene. Rachel opening the folder, her carefully constructed world suddenly shaking. Her friends watching, probably pulling out their phones to record the drama. Everything was content to them, even catastrophe. That evening, she showed up at my firm. The receptionist called, nervous. Your wife is here. She's crying. I went down to the lobby. Rachel's makeup was running. Artfully smudged, I noticed, like she practiced crying just enough to look vulnerable, but not enough to look ugly. She wore my favorite dress, the one from our third date. Please, she said, loud enough for coworkers to hear. Please, can we just talk? I saw colleagues watching, saw them seeing her performance, and realized she was playing to an audience again. The abandoned wife, the heartbroken woman, the victim of a cruel husband. Not here, I said. We went to a conference room. The moment the door closed, her demeanor shifted. Less victim, more strategist. This is insane. You can't just divorce me over one conversation. Watch me. We took vows, Nicholas. Vows you never meant. I pulled out my phone. I've been recording this conversation. My attorney has copies of your messages. Your DMs where you called our marriage a brand partnership, and testimony from Sonia about your pattern of transactional relationships. Her face went slack. Sonia wouldn't. She already did. Sworn deposition yesterday. Rachel stared at me like I was a stranger. Who are you? You're supposed to be nice. The boring engineer who doesn't fight back. I am nice, I said. But nice isn't the same as stupid. The ring, Rachel. 48 hours, or I press charges for the credit card fraud, too. I left her in that conference room, watching through the glass as she pulled out her phone, already spinning the narrative to someone, already crafting her next performance. The preliminary hearing was supposed to be routine. I expected an hour, maybe two. Instead, it became the moment when everything came out. Rachel arrived in a designer suit, full makeup, expensive attorney, ready to fight. Her lawyer opened aggressively, claiming the ring was a gift freely given, that I was weaponizing a private conversation taken out of context, that his client had entered the marriage in good faith. Victoria stood up calmly. Your Honor, may I present evidence to the contrary? She projected Instagram DMs on the courtroom screen. Messages my tech-savvy cousin had retrieved from a cloud backup Rachel had forgotten about. Message from 3 weeks before proposal. He's definitely buying a ring soon. I dropped so many hints about that $30,000 one. If he goes cheap, I'm reconsidering this whole thing faced with tears of joy. Message from engagement day. Look at this ring. Gemstone, gemstone, gemstone. This is content gold. The engagement will get me at least 3 brand deals. Message from 1 month after the wedding. Marriage is honestly just part of my brand strategy at this point. The husband thing plays well. Super relatable aesthetic. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge looked uncomfortable. There are 47 more, Victoria said. Would the court like to hear them? The judge turned to Rachel. Ms. George, did you enter this marriage with genuine intention to build a life partnership, or was it primarily motivated by social and financial benefit? Rachel's attorney whispered urgently, but she shook him off. I cared about him. I did, but I also saw opportunities. Opportunities, the judge repeated flatly. Mr. George worked overtime to pay off secret credit cards you opened. He liquidated retirement savings. He purchased a $30,000 ring, believing it represented mutual commitment. Is that accurate? Yes, but... And you described this marriage as something you would squeeze what you can out of before moving on? Rachel's attorney tried to intervene, but the damage was done. The judge had seen enough. The ruling came swiftly. Annulment, not divorce. The marriage was legally erased as if it never existed. The ring had to be returned within 48 hours, or Rachel would face contempt charges. All joint debts became her sole responsibility. As we left, Rachel grabbed my arm. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. I gently removed her hand. No, I just stopped letting you ruin me. 2 days after the hearing, I woke to 200 text messages. Rachel had posted a 10-minute video on Instagram, her sitting in sweats, no makeup, looking devastated. I want to be honest with you all, she told her 50,000 followers. My marriage ended because I married a man who couldn't handle my success. Nicholas isolated me, controlled my spending, sabotaged my career. When I finally found the courage to leave, he retaliated. The video had 200,000 views in 6 hours. Comments flooded in, "Stay strong, queen. Men are so threatened by successful women. You deserve better." My phone exploded. My mother called, confused. My boss called, worried about reporters asking questions. Friends sent concerned messages. Victoria's advice was clear. Don't respond. Don't post. We handle this legally. But Travis said, "Bro, defend yourself. She's destroying your reputation." I sat in my apartment, watching Rachel's performance spiral across social media. I could post the court documents, the evidence, destroy her narrative in minutes. Instead, I recorded 3 minutes on my phone. No editing, no rehearsal. My name is Nicholas George. My ex-wife posted a video about our marriage. I won't address specific allegations. There's an ongoing legal proceeding. But I'll say this. Truth isn't loud. Truth doesn't need performance. Truth exists in court documents, in testimony under oath, in evidence that can't be filtered or edited. If you want the real story, wait for facts to come out. And please, think critically about what you see on social media. Not everything that looks authentic is real. I posted it without a second thought. Within 12 hours, the tide shifted. Someone found the public court documents. Screenshots of Rachel's DMs appeared. Sonia posted a statement. I love Rachel, but I can't stay silent. Nicholas is telling the truth. Rachel's videos started getting re-uploaded with context. Her own messages overlaid on her crying face. Brand partnerships quietly dissolved. Her follower count dropped. She posted apology videos, then deleted them, posted more, deleted those too. She was losing control of the narrative, and for someone whose entire identity was performance, it was existential death. I turned off my phone and went back to work. Scene 9. The ring exchange happened in a parking lot, neutral territory arranged by attorneys. 48 hours exactly, right at the deadline. Rachel looked different when she arrived. Smaller somehow. Her hair was in a simple ponytail, minimal makeup, jeans, and a plain shirt. No performance for once. Or maybe this was just a different kind of performance. I couldn't tell anymore. She held out the ring box without meeting my eyes. I took it, opened it. The diamond caught the afternoon sun. Still beautiful. Still holding all that trapped light that had once represented everything I'd hoped for. I didn't want it to come to this, Rachel said quietly. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never seen before. Not calculation, not performance, just emptiness. What did you want it to come to? She laughed bitterly. I don't know. I thought I could have both. The marriage and the freedom. The stability and the excitement. I thought I could keep performing and nobody would notice it wasn't real. Did you ever wonder what would happen when the performance ended? I guess I thought it never would. That I could just keep going. New role, new story, new audience. She finally met my eyes. I'm not a bad person, Nicholas. I never said you were. But you think it. I closed the ring box carefully. I think you're someone who learned that love is transactional and never unlearned it. I think you're so afraid of being unseen that you turn yourself into a constant broadcast. I think you're probably lonely in ways you can't even articulate. Rachel's eyes went wet. That's the nicest mean thing anyone's ever said to me. It's not mean. It's sad. You had something real and couldn't recognize it, because real love doesn't get likes. Would you believe me if I said I'm sorry? I thought about my grandmother's letter, the one she'd left with her sapphire ring. True love doesn't sparkle in photographs. It glows in ordinary moments. Maybe, I said, but sorry doesn't fix it. Sorry doesn't give me back 3 years. Rachel nodded, started to walk away, then turned back. The painting from Proposal, it's still in your garage. Do you want it? What would I do with it? Maybe it could remind you that you're the kind of person who believes in building things together. Don't let what I did make you stop believing that. That night, I took the ring to my mother's house. She was waiting with tea, the way she always did during hard times. I told her everything. The overheard phone call, the divorce, the court case, the empty feeling of winning something that felt like losing. She listened without judgment, and when I finished, she opened her jewelry box and pulled out a simple gold band worn smooth from years of wear. This was your grandmother's ring, the one she left you in her will. She wanted you to give it to someone who loves you more than things. She took the expensive diamond ring from me. Let me have this one melted down. We'll make something new from it, something that's yours alone. I watched my mother examine the $30,000 ring that had cost me so much more than money, and I realized that all its value, every dollar, every sparkle, couldn't buy what my parents had, what my grandparent had. Real love isn't expensive. It's just rare. Over the next few months, I started therapy, started rock climbing, joined a book club, learned to cook Italian food. I discovered that I didn't need someone to make me interesting. I just needed to be interested in my own life. Diana came back into my life, never saying, I told you so, just holding me while I cried and showing me research papers on narcissistic relationships. Loving someone who can't love back isn't a character flaw, she said. It's a tragedy. You deserve better. Sonia sent me a message apologizing for not trying harder to warn me. I told her it wouldn't have mattered. I had to learn the lesson myself. The world kept turning. I kept building things. And slowly, the cracks in my foundation started to heal. 6 months after the annulment, my friend convinced me to attend a gallery opening. Different city, different gallery, but similar vibe. I almost said no. Galleries reminded me of proposals and performances and everything I'd lost. But I went. I was talking to a woman about architecture, about cantilevers and load-bearing structures, and she actually understood. Her name was Elena. She was a fellow engineer. She laughed at my jokes because they were funny, not because it photographed well. Then I saw Rachel across the room. She was with someone new, tall, well-dressed, the kind of guy who looked like he collected credit cards and experiences. She was laughing that performative laugh, touching his arm exactly as she'd once touched mine. Our eyes met across the gallery. Time stopped. I saw surprise in her face, something that might have been regret, then that familiar mask sliding back into place. She whispered to her boyfriend and walked over. "Nicholas," she said. "Hi." "Rachel." Elena sensed attention and excused herself to get drinks, but not before squeezing my hand, a simple gesture that somehow meant everything. "She seems nice," Rachel said, watching Elena go. "She is." "Are you happy?" I considered lying, being polite, then decided I was done with comfortable lies. "I'm getting there. Therapy helps." "So does meeting people who like me for boring reasons? Because I'm reliable, because I tell bad puns, because I remember how they take their coffee?" Rachel nodded. "I started therapy, too. Real therapy, not for show." She paused. "I'm not better yet, but I'm trying to understand why I'm the way I am." "That's good. I'm trying to be different with him." She glanced at her new boyfriend. More honest, less performative. "It's hard." "I imagine it is." She opened her purse, pulled out her phone, then stopped. I was going to ask for a photo. For old times. But that would be weird, right? And very on brand for old me. She put the phone away. "I'm really sorry, Nicholas. You deserve better than what I gave you." "Yeah," I said. "I did." It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't anger either. Just truth. Rachel walked back to her boyfriend, and I watched her perform the same dance with a new partner. I wondered if she'd ever stop performing, then decided it wasn't my job to wonder anymore. Elena returned with wine. "Ex-wife." "Yeah. How'd you know?" "The way you boasted like you were waiting for an explosion that never came." She handed me a glass. "Want to talk about it?" "Not particularly." "Want to talk about innovative uses of steel in modern residential design?" I laughed, genuinely laughed. "God, yes." We spent 2 hours talking about architecture, construction failures, the beauty of structural integrity. Elena didn't photograph anything, didn't check her phone, didn't perform. When she laughed, it was because something was actually funny. Walking to our cars later, Elena said, "This might be forward, but can I see you again? Somewhere less fancy? I make really good pancakes, and I'd love to bore you with my thesis on sustainable building materials." I thought about the $30,000 ring, now melted into a pendant my mother wore. About the years I'd spent loving someone who couldn't love me back. About how I'd almost let that experience close me off to trying again. "I'd like that," I said. "But fair warning, I fall asleep by 10 p.m. I think budgets are exciting, and I'm really deeply boring." Elena grinned. "Perfect. I fall asleep by 9:30. I color code my spreadsheets, and I once spent 3 hours explaining tensile versus compressive stress to my cat. I think we'll get along great." As I drove home, I passed a billboard advertising luxury jewelry. The model looked eerily like Rachel, perfect, polished, performing. I didn't feel anger or regret. I felt gratitude. Because sometimes the best thing that can happen is realizing that what you wanted desperately wasn't what you needed. Sometimes the best thing is letting go of the performance and finding someone who appreciates the ordinary magic of being real. The ring had taught me what love isn't. Elena might teach me what love is, and that, I thought, was worth more than $30,000 could ever buy.